first time. Paul Espargaro and a Repsol Honda. Jack Miller and Pecco Bagnaia jumping on the factory Ducati, or Fabio Quartararo on the factory Yamaha. The list goes on, Simon. There's been cameras everywhere, photographers everywhere. It's been such an exciting morning of racing.
Well, it's a good morning for the photographers, like you said, because it's been the first day to see the riders. We didn't pick the best spot, Jack, we shouldn't have with you. To see riders that for the first exit on their new bikes, you know, so there's been a lot of that. I got to talk to a few team managers to find out what they're doing today. I first spoke to Mayo Mirigali, team manager for Yamaha, and he told me some interesting stuff that he said this is their first real test. I know that might sound obvious, but he's meaning for even their test riders, because he said they plan to do some in Japan, but it's been extra cold and it was not any good, you know, too cold for the tyres. So then they thought of getting equipment to Spain to test, but they said the time pressure and logistics worries about getting them back to here on time were too much. They went, no, we're just going to send more riders here. That's why they've got 3 test riders plus their 4 riders, you know, on Yamahas. So they've got 7 guys out there now, and he said they've each got a reference bike from last year, you know, like basically what they liked last year, and on the other side of the garage, basically all of the riders have this available, 1 reference bike and 1 bike that they're throwing parts at to test, and with 7 guys they're going to get through quite a bit. I
know we're only 3 hours into the first official test, but as you say, Aprilia, Ducati, KTM, Honda, they've all had the opportunity for their test riders to get out in Jerez. Despite the fact we're only at day 1, do you think that Yamaha are a little bit behind the curve? Or is it too early to say
obviously
that?
You're right, but who knows why? You know, it obviously takes some time to manufacture those bits, and you know, there's a lot of boys out there now. It obviously takes time to develop, make those parts, and then get them, you know, to Spain in time. And if they're not going to get those parts there's no point testing. So sounds like just ran out of time. And
which, unfortunately, with the current global sort of situation, that can happen. But we'll see how Yamaha gets on. They've obviously got today, tomorrow, and then 3 more days. We'll see at the end of that what sort of a position they're in, and we can judge it from there. In regards to times, well,
the thing is, today is not a good day, again, like yesterday, to really test things on the limit. You know, no. If you're going to choose a chassis or a swing arm, you need better conditions than this to really tell, you know. And that's why it was interesting talking to Aprilia. Sorry, I thought I'd jump in. And what they're doing is they have been testing, and they said what they've got, they're trying to get through their main priorities at the moment are to choose a front wing. They've got 2. They want to choose which one the riders like to start the season on. And the other thing is, so they've got 2 of those to try. They've got 2 different bikes in the garage again. One has the engine, or is the bike from Jerez test. It's quite high mileage now. They rode there for days, and what they're trying to do, they said they want to know when or if, and the mileage that they give that engine, it drops off in performance, or they said changes in response for the rider. So that's what they want to know. Then they know when to change the engine.
As you can see, the conditions are slightly better, but I use slightly in the very loosest of terms. It's still extremely windy today, as you just mentioned. With regards to time, don't really look at them, but Stoker will Stefan Bradl's fastest at the moment. He's still 0.4 of a second slower than what he managed to do yesterday to top the timesheets. As Simon has said, everyone just getting right up to speed. If we're talking HRC, obviously the eagerly anticipated debut of Paul Espargaro has happened this morning. You can go to MotoGP.com now and be able to watch his first laps here in the sale on the orange Repsol Honda machine. We spoke to his assistant, who's not actually his assistant anymore, because unlike in KTM, he's not allowed in the box anymore. Alberto's rules. So yeah, Borja's not allowed allowed in the box anymore. But he has spoken with Paul, went out this morning, as you can expect, a couple of things that needed changing, rear brake, making sure he was comfortable on the bike, and they managed to do that. The good news is, obviously Paul in his MotoGP career so far has had a switch from Yamaha to KTM, where the bikes are polar opposite. On this occasion, he believes that, as we kind of guessed going into it, the DNA of the KTM and the Honda is similar, which is making him feel more comfortable and instantly has an understanding of how the bike is going to behave, and he's happy with that, which, compared to Jorge Lorenzo when he made the switch, we've seen photos on social media of Paul taking his helmet off, a big smile across his face, polar opposite emotions of what we saw when Jorge had his first taste of the Repsol Honda. And obviously people will draw parallels between the two because it didn't particularly go to plan with Jorge, and I'm sure Alberto and the rest of HRC are hoping the same doesn't happen with Paul. Yeah, well, to be fair, Jorge came from a Ducati, which is also a 90-degree V4, but it really does make sense that the KTM and Honda are similar. Well, you know, for what thought that was Carl running off, but he's on a slowdown lap. Paul coming from a KTM to the Honda, it wasn't much of a secret when you look at the bikes that KTM, I don't know if this is the right word, but copied or kind of built a Honda, because the specs are pretty close, you know, although it's got a steel tube frame and it's built by KTM, it's very close to the Honda, and it makes sense that they feel similar. Yeah, it's extremely interesting regardless though to find out how Paul gets on, as it is for all of the guys making their debuts. What else have you managed to find out in pit lane, Simon? You know, there's very little, because it's the first day that they've all got out. They've all got to start on, like I said, those reference bikes, which is not much new. That's Jack Miller there being, well, Jack being Jack, you can see he's doing his live, and instead of being nice and quiet, he's making as much noise as possible. Just like Calwood, his mate, yeah. So, what I'd like to say, though, is I spoke to Davide Tadozzi because I spotted last night that Michele Pirro was out on a very different looking fairing. The top part was the same. The bottom has, like, if you imagine you cut a football, a soccer ball in half, or a rugby ball in half, and stuck it on the side, you know, and made it into a bit of a scoop on the side in the belly pan. It's kind of what it looks like. It's got, I spoke to a few other engineers in the paddock from opposite, you know, saying, what do you think of that? They think it's obviously aero, but they think they might be trying to work on change of direction, which may be helpful in winds, you know. But otherwise, Davide Tadozzi told me that really today is to get there for Ducati riders, you know, the Pramac guys and factory Ducati guys, just up to speed and on their reference bikes. Nothing else new today. Jorge Martin, the rookie, was the last of the 4 Ducatis to go out. Obviously, as we mentioned yesterday in After the Flag, well, I was going to say a little bit of an off. It was more than a little bit of an off at turn 3, just over the corner there. He was the last man out at 4 p.m. local time. I spoke with Francesco Guidotti, team boss of the Pramac Racing concern, earlier. He said a bit of a problem with his left leg, nothing too serious though, just the usual aches and pains after being chucked off of a MotoGP. He's quite lucky because he told me it was a fast one, and there's not much left of the bike. No, the bike was wheeled in about 3 different bits. It was a fast one from Jorge Martin. Talking of crashes and talking of bikes coming back in wheelbarrows, Alex Marquez went down at the final corner, and although okay, thankfully he's been back out on track since. Another bike that was totaled. The LCR squad are going to be fairly busy with that one. One other techie thing before we have to sign off that the tech guys might enjoy is, I'd heard over the years that Honda have a kind of an alarm to let, whether it's let the garage know and the garage let them know that the tyre pressure temperature is getting too high, because it's been a real problem. It's destroyed a lot of riders' races, because when the pressure gets too high from slipstreaming, there's no cool air on it, the temperature goes up, the pressure goes up, the contact patch of the front tyre gets smaller, they lose grip, you know, they can lock the front on the brake and lose the front. So I overheard the Tech 3 computer guy explaining to Petrucci that
This one's to let you know that the pressure's getting too high, get out of the draft. So yeah, really technical to be a rider these days.
More of that to come later on tonight. 8:30 we'll be live with you on MotoGP.com for After the Flag. 6:30 in Barcelona, 5:30 in the UK. It is quite simply the only place that you'll be able to hear the first thoughts of your favourite riders after they've made their 2021 debuts here in Qatar. We'll see you there.